Welcome to We're on the Lookout for Lookups. Hey, I'm Eric, and in this video we're going to take a look at lookups. I've received a few questions on this subject and surrounding areas in the last couple of weeks, and I thought, well, let's do a video on this. I do apologize in advance. This is high allergy season in British Columbia, and I am a proud card-carrying member of the allergy club, and if I'm crying or the nose is running, that's that's just how my life has been for the last 2 weeks. Anyway, let's get to it. So here is my Business Central, and let's just define what we're talking about when we're talking about lookups. So if I go on to a customer, and I go into the customer card, and let's find something good. Let's find under invoicing, we have the customer posting group right above myself here, and when I click on that, we get a drop down with the options. If I start typing in the field itself acts like a search field. And this is in general the same behavior that we have all across, no matter where you find it. Nowadays, this points downwards. In the old version, lookup was actually going up and drill down was going down. We can talk about drill down in another video. Let me know if you want something on that subject right after you subscribed. Anyway, so this is a lookup. And I have, here is my Visual Studio Code, and I created a simple table with a simple page. And actually just need to do one thing, because I have created this page kind of like a setup page. So I need to say on open page, I do if rec dot is empty, is empty, then rec dot insert. So we get a record in our little setup page. And then let me actually stop this again and make sure that I have the right page in my launch JSON. I don't think I have. I call it something like that. So this thing is deploying. I need to log in because why not? And so here's my very simple page with one field, and if we go and look in VS Code, we can see that there is a table. Apart from the primary key, there's just an item number. I created a field called item number, and this field do not have anything here. So that's before I started the video, I was counting, and I think we're gonna cover 3 different types of lookups. So the first one is a simple lookup, and it's actually you get the lookup for free, meaning that what you actually do is that on this field, I'm gonna add a table relations, saying that this field has a relation to the item table with the item number. I know there is a way that this could also be written as you can write table relation equal item and nothing else. And the system allows this because that was kind of how it was done in a very early version. So a lot of the Microsoft's own code in the base app is still doing this. This is bad. Just to be clear, this is bad. You should always actually specify what field it is. So we're going to do this. Let's deploy it again. And if we go in, we can see now we got a the lookup point down thing, and I can select an item, and I get an item number here, and all is good. I can also use this as a search field now. So if I type chair, I get the cross-column search here. I may be even able to type a price now. Now that's too much, but I can type chair. That's pretty good. And select chair. So this is a simple lookup. And the great thing about this is that we get the lookup for free. We don't have to think about it because this lookup is just due to the table structure, the schema of the database. So that's the simple one. The next one, and let me actually show you a demo of that one. But if we go into, let's go into a sales order. And we'll find the sales order. Let's open a sales order. And this will open in a second. There we go. So here we have the sales line and we have the number field. And now right now my type is item. So I do this and I get the exact same thing as we did on our other field. But look what happens if I go in here and I select that now type is a GL account. I go back to the same field, hit the same lookout, or I can press Alt arrow down. That's the secret keystroke to open a lookup. This used to be F4 or used to be F6. Now it's Alt arrow down. You can see now the list I'm getting is GL accounts. So clearly something is different here. So let's go back to our code for a second. And look at this. So let's actually create another field here. Let's and we'll call that type. How about that? And we'll say that's an option and caption equal type. Why not? And option members are item or GL. That's pretty nice. And then let's simulate this one and say field number 4 is oops, wow. I'm hitting the wrong keys. I totally blame the allergy and the pollen. So caption equal number here. So now what do we do? So we can do table relation, but we don't want to say item because this might be GL. But let's hover over this for a second and see a lot of confusing stuff here. But let's actually break this down a bit. So we can say if. So table relation can either be table name dot field name where filters, but it could also be if condition table name field name filters else table relation. So let's try this out. So we can say so we say if, and now we can do a condition. So if type, which is this field we just created, equal, and then equal, we have 3 options. We can do const, we can do field, so another value in the current record, or we can do a filter, so a hard-coded filter. So in this case, I'm just going to do const and say, and what const do we have on the type? Well, we have the const will be GL and item because those are the 2 option members in the field we just created. So we can say that if type is item, there's no then here because this is kind of a C style, so there's a parentheses on the if. So now we can do item dot number. But how about the GL account? So let's go back and see. We can also do an else here. So now we can say else. Then we can go to the next line, and this is so. AL is very good at formatting stuff, and most of the time the auto formatter looks stunningly beautiful the way it formats the code. But these statements here for like this thing is a challenge for your auto format. I'll show an example in just a second. Oh, so we can do else if type equal const. And this time we gotta go with GL. Then we'll do GL account dot number. So before we run, let's actually just read it out, because stuff like this reads very well. If the type is an item, then we do the relation to item.number. Else, if type is equal GL, then we do the relation to GL account. Let's run it and see what happens. No, let's not run it. That was you can yell at me now. Eric, you forgot to put the fields on the page. So let's do that. Add multiple fields. We'll add type and we'll add number. Bam, there we go. Now we can run it. So, and if you know, how did you add those two fields, you're asking? I'm doing that with the brilliant AZAL dev tool thingy. So you can just, in somewhere you can see we get the little light bulb, and mean that there are fixes, and you can add multiple fields to a group or to a data item on a report and so on. That's really brilliant. Anyway, so we have our record here, and we can see that item number is still our old field. So now we have type and number, the new fields. So this is currently item, because I set this as a option field, and option fields are defaulted to the first value. So otherwise you'll need to add a little space thingy as the first value if they should be able to choose it, or just a comma if they should not be able to choose it, but there should still be a option for not selected. So now I have item, I hit this one, I get items, and I could do GL, and I get GL accounts. So we add the relationship, the complicated relationship, still to the data model, and we get the lookups for free. So this was the second one. So now we're 2 for 2 in something that's free if we just make sure that our data model is correct. Before we go to the third one, let's talk about that field on the sales line. Let's find the source code for the base app. And let's find table 37, the sales line. And let's find the number field. It's just down here. There it is. And this thing, okay, so this thing is poorly formatted. Actually, let's just grab this thing and put it into our own so we can format it proper. Number 2. Then we are missing stuff. Oh, okay. That was a stupid idea. Forget I said that. Let's just look at it in here. So you can see that this is fairly complex. So table relation equal if it's blank, the blank option, because if we go back now, this is an enum now. Then we're looking up in standard text, and you can see here again, bad Microsoft. You're not telling what field you're looking up to. Else, if type is GL account, comma, meaning and, system created entry is false. Then GL account, where direct posting is true, account type is posting, and block is false. Else, if it's just GL account. So look at the compounding here that it starts by saying, okay, if this is GL account and not a system entry, then that's a certain lookup. Otherwise, it's just a straight lookup. Otherwise, if it's GL account and system create entry is true, then it's a straight lookout to GL account up here. Else, if it's resource, go to resource. If it's fixed asset, go to fixed assets. If it's chart item, go to item charge. Else, if type is item, comma, and then we need to go back out here, and the document type is filter, not credit memo and not return order. Then find an item where that's not blocked and where sales is not blocked. Else, if type is item and document type is credit memo or return order, then find an item that's not blocked. So you can see, if we forget about the bad formatting, this is fairly complicated, fairly sophisticated, and it's all done in the data model, and the UI just adapts to this. So that's awesome. But I promise you 3 types, and the third type is the one that's the catch-all. If whatever we did not do what we wanted it to do, let's do it ourselves. And to be clear, do it ourselves is also, we're also saying that now we're no longer in the schema definition. Now we're in uncharted territory, and potentially we need to handle what we need to handle. It may be a combination that we have a table relation, we have something set up, but we want to give the user a better experience in what they can select from. So that if we go back to this one for a second here, the challenge is, of course, if we look at even one as sophisticated as this one, is that we can only use fields in the record we're in. So we cannot say that based on something that sits somewhere else, we should go and do a lookup in a certain way. You can only react from the record that you're on. You cannot, if you, as the example here, that we cannot on a sales line react to a field on a sales header and have that control the lookup without replicating the field into the sales line. So that's, but you can get into scenarios where it's simply not possible to get it to work in that one. And this is where you then turn to, and let's actually use it. Let's just, to begin with, remove the table relation from that item number field. So now this field here is back to being as dumb as a field as it can be. So what we can do here is that we can create a trigger, and there's a trigger called onLookup. And the first thing we need to do is actually look at this trigger, because this trigger is a bit different from most triggers in Business Central. And this trigger, it makes perfect sense, but it's just different and perhaps not what you would expect. So first of all, the trigger has no knowledge of the type of the field. And you can see that it takes one parameter called text, which is by reference transferred, and it returns a Boolean. So let's just try it out for a second. Let's do something like this. Wow, lookup. Let's run it. And I go into edit, and we can see that now we have the 3 dots, meaning that the system knows that this is just not it's not just opening up the lookup list. I can click the 3 dots and my code is called. So that's pretty nice. But let's talk about what happens here. So what is text? Well, let's try to figure that out. So if I say lookup %1, and let's figure out what's actually in text. So I hit the 3 dots and I get the value of the field. If I remove this and go out and in and refresh and all that good stuff, I get nothing. So I get the value of the field. But and now remember what we talked about over here in this field, that if I type chair, which is clearly not an item number, then that has an effect. And this is actually the same thing that's happening now. So think about text here as when it comes into the function, it's the search value. And when it comes out of the function, again, meaning that, so right now we have 2 options. So we can make this very simple and say that text equal text plus ABC. And then what we need to do is that we need to exit true. So the Boolean return value here is telling whether the lookup was successful or not. So in this case, hopefully as soon as I hit the 3 dots, we should get basically ABC appended to the value. This is the worst validate function ever, and don't do this as validate. So I type DEF and I hit this one and I get ABC. So that is clearly returning a value. So how can we turn that into a true lookup? Well, let's try it. So we know that this, and we can choose to ignore the search function in depending on how you do the following page. So let's forget about this for a second here. So now we want to add some UI, and we can do a page.run modal, and then let's find a page item list. And we need to put that in quotes. Why didn't that come in quotes? So this is pretty good. We run a page, and we can even, we need to get an item. So in this case, we'll create an item variable. I've never called that item, so that's good. Go to item, and we need to pass this on to this guy. So let's run it again. So run modal will run a page and wait for the user to do something and close the page. So I hit this and I get an item list with alternative images, but I can just hit close now. Well, you can't even see that, but just right. I'm totally beefed up on allergy medicine. Behind my head there's a close button. That's the only thing, and there's no OK or anything. Let me actually see if I can make this a bit more visible. I don't have the fancy green screens and all that the other guys have, so I just have my old computers in the background. So there's a close, there's no OK. And this is because the page that we're looking up is not aware that it's in a lookup scenario. So how can we fix that? In several ways, at least 2 ways, but what I prefer to do is that if you enclose the page.run modal in an if, then we can ask on the return value, if you can say if page.run modal is equal action : lookup OK, then do something. And what do we want to do? Well, we clearly want to tell that what the user has chosen is an item. So we pass that into text. So the item number. And then we tell the function that lookup was OK. So now there's an implied exit false down here. So default exit value on a Boolean function, if we don't do anything, is false. So let's try this. I hit the 3 dots. You see now the list totally changed because now it knows that it's in lookup mode. So I can select the conference bundle here and I get the value back as if I entered it. That's very important. So this has not been validated. As soon as I escape the field, if we had a on validate, then this value should be. Now we need to make sure that what I actually came with is actually actually an item number. So we could just try to get an item with it, see if it works. And I need to put reg on it. So let's try this again. I select random item. I hit OK. I exit out of the field. The system is happy. I just type something and I get at some point I get a breakpoint in this case that this item, and for some reason I have to press F5 twice now. Anyway, we get an error saying that this item does not exist. So we have, by combining those two triggers, created the same thing. But to be clear, that this is never how you would want to do something like this. So from that was a bad example. It will still be better to add the table relation here. Let's see, if we add a table relation to item number, and now this one gets unhappy with us because I added the table relation on the page, Eric. Again, I blamed pollen medicine. Here, I add the table relation to the table. Wow. Sorry, guys. And we edit this, and yeah, then it's validated that at some point. Come on, PC, you can do it. Oh, we got a breakpoint. Sorry, I didn't see that. So yeah, this one can't be validated. But I don't have the usual drop-down lookup. I still have my 3 dots. So I still have my lookup function, even though the validation of the table relation is done by the schema. So I now have the option of doing things to, where are we? Doing things to this page. The other way of doing this is actually creating the lookup page as a let's see, item list lookup as a page variable, and then what you need to do is to set this into lookup mode, and you need to set the filter. But then you can also, if you have a function on the page, then call that function to set additional filters and do other things in the page if that's needed. So you have options here, but that's the on lookup trigger, which is very powerful. And you, when you get, as soon as you see the 3 dots, this is not a proper lookup, or it is a problem. It's not a system generated lookup. There's certainly code behind it. So that's a bit of lookups. That's a look into look. I was going to say something smart. That was a look into lookups and the different ways you can use them. I use the lookup trigger a lot when I need to do a complicated thing, but I also use it in cases where I just need to be, tiny bit more friendly to my users. And if I can add some extra filters that will help the lookup and will reduce the amount of errors that we'll just be getting from a normal lookup plus whatever validation code I have. I think that's a good way. Right now, there's no way that we can get the drop down to behave like a page. Maybe in the future. Anyway, so that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and let me know in the comments below how you are using lookups. And then until next time, have a wonderful day.